Welcome to this deep and fascinating journey into the world of rare coins, where tiny details and minting mistakes transform what seems like an ordinary coin into a treasure worth millions. And today we dive into the story of the 1981 1-cent coin that has been known to cost as much as $3 million, a mind-blowing figure for a small copper-plated coin that most people would ignore in their change jar, yet collectors, historians, and treasure hunters recognize the immense value hiding behind its errors, mistakes, and anomalies. And in this long exploration we will peel back layer after layer of history, minting processes, technical aspects, and collector psychology to understand why this coin is considered a treasure, and why it continues to captivate the imagination of those who hear about it. So let's start by understanding that in 1981 the US Mint was still producing pennies made of a composition that had been standard since 1962, 95% copper and 5% zinc, a metal combination that gave the coin its familiar reddish-brown hue. And yet within a year things were about to change, because in 1982 the Mint switched to a copper-plated zinc composition to save costs, which means that 1981 is one of the last years of the traditional copper-based cents, making it a transitional marker in numismatic history, and this alone sparks interest. But what really drives the incredible value of specific 1981 cents is not just the composition, it is the mistakes and minting errors that slip through the quality control of the mint and into the hands of collectors, and the more dramatic, rare, and unique the error, the higher the potential price a collector is willing to pay. And that is how we arrive at stories of 1981 pennies being auctioned or sold privately for astronomical amounts, because when rarity collides with demand, the numbers skyrocket. And if we break it down, there are several categories of errors that could occur on a 1981 penny, such as doubled die errors, where the coin's design was impressed more than once during the hubbing process, creating doubled features on the date, lettering, or Lincoln's profile, and these are highly sought after because the doubling is visible without magnification in some cases, making it dramatic and unmistakable. Another kind of error involves off-center strikes, where the planchet, or blank coin, was not properly aligned with the dies, resulting in a coin where part of the design is missing or shifted. And in extreme cases the coin may be struck only halfway on the planchet, leaving a crescent of blank metal, which collectors love. And then there are broad strike errors, where the collar, which holds the coin in place, failed during the strike, causing the coin to spread out larger than normal, with distorted edges, or clipped planchet errors, where a portion of the blank metal disc was cut incorrectly, leaving a curved or straight clip missing from the edge. And even more exotic are transitional errors, where a coin is struck on a planchet intended for a different year or denomination, and in the case of 1981, a cent could theoretically have been struck on a 1982 zinc planchet or on a foreign coin blank being processed at the US Mint at the time. And these wrong planchet errors are among the rarest and most valuable. And then we consider die breaks, cuds, and cracks, which occur when the metal dies used to strike coins start to wear and break, leaving raised blobs or missing sections of design on the coin, turning each affected coin into a unique piece of minting history. And when you take into account that millions of 1981 pennies were minted, but only a tiny fraction escaped with such dramatic flaws, you begin to see why those flawed survivors are so prized. And among them, certain specimens have sold for astonishing amounts because they combine rarity, eye appeal, and a story that collectors cannot resist. So when we talk about a 1981 penny costing $3 million, we are really talking about an ultimate example, a coin that may combine multiple desirable errors in one piece, like a doubled die of verse with strong doubling on the date and motto, struck off-center with a clipped planchet, and perhaps even on a transitional blank, a once-in-a-lifetime combination of mistakes that no other coin could replicate. And the market for such unique treasures is driven not just by their metal value, which is pennies, but by the passion of collectors, who compete for ownership of something no one else has. And that competition drives bidding wars and auctions, private deals, and numismatic circles. And if you think about it, coins are more than just money, they are miniature pieces of art, mass-produced symbols of a nation's identity. And when something goes wrong in the minting process, that mistake freezes a moment in history, a flaw that should never have existed but did. And for collectors, owning such a coin is like holding lightning in their hands, a physical reminder that even in industrial precision, human or mechanical error creates beauty and rarity. And in the case of the 1981 penny, the stories of its million-dollar value have spread across coin forums, collector communities, and YouTube channels, sparking curiosity among everyday people who rush to check their jars of pennies, their drawers, and even pocket change, hoping to stumble upon a fortune hiding in plain sight. And while the average 1981 penny is worth only face value, the rare error specimens stand apart, glowing like jewels among pebbles. And the fascinating thing is that the value of these coins is not static, because as time passes and more collectors enter the market, demand grows, and as surviving examples are hoarded away in collections, supply shrinks, which pushes the prices even higher. And that is why a coin that may have been worth a few $100s decades ago can now command millions. And this is also tied to the storytelling aspect of collecting, because when a coin like the 1981 penny is featured in news stories or viral videos, more people become interested, which further amplifies demand, and so the coin becomes both a tangible artifact and a cultural phenomenon. But to truly appreciate why it could fetch $3 million, one must consider not just the errors but also the condition. Because collectors use a grading scale from poor to mint state 70, and the higher the grade, the sharper and more lustrous the coin appears. And error coins in high grades are exceptionally rare because they often escaped circulation early or were saved by sharp-eyed collectors. So a 1981 penny with dramatic errors, in pristine condition, authenticated by a grading service like PCGS or NGC, becomes an unstoppable force in the market, combining error rarity with condition rarity. And when two determined collectors or investors want it, the price escalates beyond imagination, and the idea of paying $3 million for a penny may sound insane to outsiders, but in the world of collectibles, it is perfectly logical, because value is always tied to rarity, demand, and uniqueness, and coins like the 1981 cent with errors are the ultimate expression of these qualities, making them treasures not just of metal but of history, artistry, and human error immortalized in copper. And so the next time you pick up a penny and glance at the date, remember that hidden among the ordinary are legends like the 1981 cent worth millions, waiting to be discovered, waiting to change someone's life forever. And that is the allure of coin collecting, where every pocket full of change is a potential gold mine, every small detail could be worth a fortune, and every coin carries a story. And the story of the 1981 penny is one of mystery, luck, rarity, and the astonishing possibility that the smallest coin in your hand could be worth more than a mansion, more than cars, more than gold itself, because of a twist of fate at the mint decades ago. And that is why this coin continues to inspire, fascinate, and drive treasure hunters into the endless pursuit of the next big discovery. For in the world of rare coins, history, chance, and human desire combine to create value beyond imagination, and the 1981 1-cent coin, costing $3 million, is living proof of that magical reality that even the smallest, humblest coin can hold secrets worth a fortune. Next, 1990 61-cent USA coin, this fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures, where we uncover how ordinary-looking cents can transform into million-dollar marvels. And today we move forward into the story of the 1990 60 USA 1 cent, a coin that in certain extraordinary cases has reached values as high as $1 million. A staggering figure for a piece of metal that most people overlook in their daily lives. Yet within its copper-plated zinc body lies the possibility of errors, anomalies, and minting mistakes that elevate it from pocket change to priceless rarity. And this journey is not just about metal, it's about history, minting technology, human oversight, collector psychology, and the fascinating dance between rarity and demand that drives the numismatic market. So let us dive into the depths of this coin and explore every possibility that explains how a 1990 60 penny can reach such astronomical worth, beginning first with the basics of its origin. For in 1996, the Denver Mint was one of the busiest facilities in America, churning out billions of pennies, all bearing the familiar Lincoln design on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design that had been in use since 1959 to commemorate the 150th birthday of Abraham Lincoln and had become one of the longest-running designs in U.S. history. and the Denver Mint, marked by the tiny D mint mark below the date, was responsible for producing hundreds of millions of these coins in 1996. But within that mass production process lies the opportunity for mistakes, for with billions of planchets being fed into presses, dies being reused until they wore out, and machines working at high speed, it is inevitable that a fraction of coins escape with unusual errors, and it is those few survivors that collectors hunt for, prize, and pay fortunes to own. And among the errors that could occur on a 1996 penny, some are well known to specialists, such as double die obverse errors, where parts of the design like the date, lettering, or Lincoln's features appear double due to a misalignment during the die creation process, and dramatic double dies can send collectors into a frenzy, especially if the doubling is strong and visible to the naked eye. Then there are off-center strike errors, where the planchet was not properly centered between the dies during the strike, resulting in a coin where part of the design is missing or shifted dramatically, sometimes leaving as much as 50% of the coin blank, which creates a striking and unique appearance, and these off-center coins become conversation pieces worth hundreds to thousands of dollars depending on severity, but in rare cases, combined with high-grade condition, they can push into the stratosphere of value. And then we have broad strike errors, caused when the collar, which normally holds the planchet in place, fails, allowing the metal to expand outward, creating an oversized coin with distorted edges, highly unusual and desirable. And we also encounter clipped planchet errors, where a piece of the blank coin was cut incorrectly, leaving a crescent-shaped clip missing, sometimes multiple clips, which can make a coin truly one of a kind. And then there are transitional planchet errors, which occur when a coin is struck on a blank intended for another denomination or even for a foreign country. As the U.S. Mint sometimes produced coinage for other nations, and if a 1996 cent were struck on, say, a dime planchet, or a foreign coin blank of similar size and weight, it would instantly become a rarity worth tens of thousands if not hundreds of thousands. And then consider wrong metal errors. Though by 1996 all cents were supposed to be copper-plated zinc, it is theoretically possible that leftover copper planchets from the early 1980s transition or experimental blanks could have been used by mistake, creating an ultra-rare wrong metal 1996 penny that collectors would fight over, and those fights drive values higher, because at auctions, it only takes two determined bidders to push a price into the millions, and we must also account for die breaks, cuds, and cracks, which occur when the dies used to strike coins wear down and break, leaving raised blobs, missing sections, or dramatic cracks across the coin's surface, turning it into a piece of minting history frozen in metal. And if such an error occurs prominently on the 1996 penny, in a way that is both dramatic and appealing, collectors will pay a premium. But when you combine multiple errors, say, an off-center strike with a broad strike and a die break, you create a once-in-a-lifetime rarity, a coin that is unique and cannot be replicated. And it is that uniqueness which makes certain 1996 pennies skyrocket in value, sometimes all the way to $1 million in stories that spread across the collector world. And part of what fuels these astronomical figures is not just the physical error itself but the condition of the coin. For grading services like PCGS and NGC assign numerical grades from Poor 1 to Mint State 70. And error coins in mint state condition are extremely rare because most errors went into circulation where they suffered wear, scratches, and damage. But if a pristine 1996 error coin survived untouched, possibly pulled from circulation immediately by an observant eye, then preserved for decades, its combination of rarity, condition, and appeal could justify $1 million price tag, and beyond. Condition. There is also the human factor, the psychology of collecting, because in the world of numismatics there are investors and collectors with deep pockets who are willing to pay any price to own the best, the rarest, the most talked about coin, and when two such people collide in an auction, the bidding war drives prices beyond reason, yet within the logic of collecting it makes sense, because coins are more than metal. They are history, art, identity, and mistakes frozen in time, and for some, owning the ultimate rarity is worth millions, and so the 1996 penny, though common in its normal form, takes on legendary status when errors are involved, because it represents not just a flaw but a miracle of survival, a 1 in a billion accident that slipped past the mint, and these accidents are what collectors dream of finding, which is why videos, articles, and stories about $1,000,000 pennies inspire everyday people to dig through jars of change, to pull out magnifying glasses, to inspect dates, mint marks, and edges, all in the hope of finding a fortune hiding in plain sight. And what makes the 1996 penny particularly interesting is that it belongs to the era when copper-plated zinc planchets were firmly established, meaning that any deviation from the standard becomes even more dramatic, and in the mid-1990s, minting technology was highly advanced. So errors were rarer than in earlier decades, which paradoxically makes them even more valuable, because when mistakes did occur, they were scarcer, and scarcity in collecting always equates to value, and so when a 1996 penny shows an extraordinary error, it becomes not just rare but nearly unique, a piece that any serious Lincoln cent collector would kill to own, and in this sense, the coin is more than a cent, it is a gateway into a culture of obsession, competition, and history, where a tiny coin can decide reputations, collections, and even financial futures, and that is why the narrative of a 1996 penny worth $1 million continues to spread, because it taps into the universal dream of finding treasure, of turning something ordinary into something life-changing, and when you think about it, every single penny in circulation carries the potential for such a discovery, because although rare, these era coins do exist, and someone somewhere will find them, and the question becomes, will it be you? Will it be the person checking their change at a grocery store, or the collector going through a bulk bag of pennies, or perhaps a child exploring a coin jar passed down by grandparents? And this uncertainty fuels the excitement, making every cent worth inspecting, and as time goes on, and as more of these coins are pulled from circulation, hoarded, or lost forever, the surviving examples will only grow more valuable, because rarity is amplified with time, and so the 1996 penny, with its $1 million potential, becomes a symbol of hidden fortune, of the unpredictable beauty of human error in mass production, and of the timeless allure of coin collecting, where passion, history, and luck collide to create treasures beyond imagination, and that is why this humble cent, minted in the billions, has given birth to legends of $1 million values, legends that inspire countless treasure hunters to keep searching, keep hoping, and keep believing that the smallest coin in their hand might hold the biggest secret of all.